Good afternoon, good evening, good night, and welcome to another scene set in Odessa, The Dark Crusade, Season 2. This evening, the scene begins just outside the city. A fairly unusual sight for something happening at night. A fairly large and generous-looking caravan is trundling along the roads of the western farmlands, peacefully passing through, unbeknownst to its inhabitants, of the Salubri domain. It's a fairly quiet night. Activity going on. There is a fairly strong city watch presence in the farmlands, however, and it's something perhaps that would be noticed by the inhabitants of this caravan as it passes through. Well, there aren't many people up and about. There are more than a few soldiers on patrol, and as the caravan passes by one of the hamlets, it might be noticed that there's even a small barracks. The inhabitants of this caravan, of course, being Iohanna, Sister Iohanna, and her erstwhile friend, friendly acquaintance, is this man. Padre Jose Perez. And he is just sitting within the caravan, reading one of the few pieces of non-religious scripture of this time period, and also having the rare ability to actually read in this time period, and is just sitting there calmly reading his book. Opposite him is sitting the good sister.
Is there a window? Because she will be watching the lands they travel through. She is
There
an
is a
avid window watcher.
Yeah, you pass through one of the hamlets. It's a fairly empty street. Although you see an inn and a tavern that seems to be bustling with activity. Although most of the actual households have clearly closed their doors and barred them shut.
Because of the nighttime, or because there seems to be something else?
Because it's night. Okay. It's a fairly rural area, and there isn't too much to do here. Most of the it's true though. There's a few small hamlets, but there aren't many facilities for kind of general enjoyment. There isn't really an active merchants area. There doesn't appear to be any more kind of upper class social areas. Nothing like a guild hall or a gallery or any magnificent piece of architecture to even stare at. There are no real social gathering points. There are no fountains. There's a well off in the distance, but that's it. You do notice an interesting looking sight. There is a chapel up on the hill. Some distance away, there is a separate road that leads straight up there. It's on the outskirts of town. It's this lone little religious structure, which is interesting because you heard this area has been largely conquered by the Saracens, although this is known to be a cosmopolitan area.
And it looks like a Christian chapel?
It is. Okay. Well, you can definitely tell with your background that is absolutely, definitely a Christian architecture. Perhaps from it looks quite old as well. Perhaps from before the city was conquered some decades ago.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, buildings in the Dark Ages that are built to last.
Sure.
They're not built to look fancy, but they do last a long time. And as you travel down the road, your friend doesn't appear to be paying much attention at all. For the most part, he simply sits and reads in silence. Every now and then, he kind of looks at you, and then kind of his eyes drift in your direction, ponders your curiosity, then simply nods in affirmation and goes back to his book.
You're missing a very quaint little wasteland, Padre.
I've seen many quaint wastelands in my time.
Of course. Have you seen this one before?
It has more dust. I know one of the others of my clan here. I've been here once, not for long, largely academic purposes.
Can we expect a welcome?
Any competent princedom would know that we are coming from a mile away. It would not surprise me if this area has already been claimed as domain. However, last time I was here, this place was a barony. It was ruled by a much stronger kindred in Jerusalem, but things have changed from what I hear.
How long ago was this?
Around 50 to 60 years ago.
She nods.
This princedom is young, but it is lulled to the dream, so it has much power for its age.
Sorry, it's what about a dream? Out of character?
The dream it's like a kind of a sect, but also a massive social experiment. It was run by three clans, the Venturi, the Toreador, and the Tismisi. It originated in Constantinople, and it spread across the entire Byzantium Empire. It lasted for over 1,000 years.
What did he say it was? He said it was something, the dream, and I missed the verb.
Oh, sorry. The verb? I think he said it was lulled to the dream, and that gives the princedom much more power than its age would suggest.
Lulled to the dream?
Loyal to the dream.
Oh, loyal. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah. Loyal. It is part of the sect of the dream, which you would be aware. The progenitor of the dream, its founder, died literally a year ago after Constantinople was sacked.
Okay.
Many consider the dream to be dying, already dead.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, but it is still quite powerful here and still across the world.
Excellent.
Its prince is one of my clan.
I see.
So we should not run into much trouble.
I'm glad to hear it.
They may find you a curiosity, however.
A curiosity. I've been that before. But perhaps you should explain.
Not many outside my clan follows the road as you do.
She gives him a little smile because that is not unexpected. And he's well aware of how she came to follow that road.
Not many in my clan follow the road that you do. And your rather public departure from your old one may spark some interest.
Mm. If only conviction were a more popular virtue.
Indeed. He also looks to your side for a moment and says, and kind of points, and you know what he's looking at. And he says, the La Sombra are also quite powerful here. They ruled the city long before my clan has, and they currently rule Jerusalem. That will definitely spark some interest. And he gives the slightest of smiles. You know him to be very an emotionally muted gentleman. But he does. There are when he does show a smile, it kind of means that just a little bit more, and there's a slight devious to it.
She kind of presses her lips together and smiles back at him, but it's not a particularly warm smile. I've been a curiosity before. I suppose it won't hurt me to be such again.
There are certain benefits that come with attention. One of your clan should know how to utilize them well.
Indeed. I do hope you'll let me know if I'm inconveniencing you, of course.
You know I'd not be dishonest with you.
She gives him an actual smile that time.
He actually takes a moment to look out the window this time and says, we appear to be approaching the city gates. It will be interesting to see if the princedom has accounted for the size of his caravan.
Do you think we'll have trouble finding lodging?
Your herd might. Depends on their source of income.
Well, the others are talented in their own ways.
I'm sure there are plenty of almshouses, and even if there aren't, it would always be an opportunity to learn. As you approach the gate, sorry.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
As you approach the gates, they open for you, and you're led into what is effectively like a large antechamber. Like the gates close, and then there's a portcullis in front of you, so it's kind of like a standby section. The city guards kind of walk past your caravan, you know. They do the standard operating procedure. They don't necessarily search it. They don't walk into your caravan mainly because you people look pious and rich. There's a quick chat with the driver. How are you transporting your herd? Are they kind of, is it like a long list of like merchant caravans, or is it a case of like they're being transported as servants or slaves or?
It's a legit pilgrimage. Some of these people think they're going to.
It's legit pilgrimage. In which case, this process goes much smoother. There's talk of like yeah, that sort of thing. Like they kind of have an aha moment in their head, and they kind of see everyone. They kind of pious gear. Your kind of outfit tips them off, and yeah, it's a pretty quick process of just kind of sifting through who's who very quickly and making sure nobody's
Mhm.
carrying illegal weaponry, because technically only nobles can carry arms.
Mhm.
Um, and but after that, once they figure out that see that everything is mostly legit, um, there may have been a bribe or two by your servants, but we can't say for certain. Um,
That's what they're here for.
yeah, and you are let through into the city, or rather, past the gates. And as you pass, though, something seems to rile up the horses. Make me a perceptional awareness roll.
Okay. That's not how you roll.
Difficulty is 6.
Try that
Expulsor,
again.
you botch.
Oh, interesting. I just learned how to edit things, but that didn't help at all.
Hey.
There we go.
Okay, 2
2
successes.
successes.
Um, yeah, you kind of feel a sort of uh, unsettling presence heading in your general direction. For what it's worth, you look out the window, you don't see it, and you don't see the servants don't seem to notice anything, although some of them suddenly shiver just
Okay.
for a brief moment.
She's going to check the wrappings on her hands and sit back and keep a very close eye on the streets, looking as demure as possible.
Something begins dripping from the top of the caravan, some sort of black liquid substance.
Oh, dripping. Dripping's disgusting.
It is. It begins to. It doesn't like drip through the rest. It doesn't drip through the floor or anything. It just starts dripping through the roof and then just drip, 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 drip. And then it begins speeding up a little bit more until it turns into almost like a. It's like some thick viscous substance. Doesn't really come down like a water would. But it moves at a high speed, and you just see it kind of begin picking up its pace, and the drifter just downpours into this horrible looking, disgusting, unsettling, almost floods the floor likely, until it begins to kind of begin building up some sort of cohesiveness.
She very delicately lifts her skirts out of the liquid and rearranges herself on the
It
seat a little
isn't
bit.
it isn't wet, but it's freezing cold.
Oh no, she's not touching it. She's doing everything she can to not touch it, and will
But
also glance at her
even
mentor.
even you as a canine who's not really affected by extreme temperatures at all,
Uh huh.
can just feel the temperature begin leaving the carriage.
Oh, good.
And it's
Okay.
fairly hot in this region. Like it's a warm night and it's just cold. And it begins forming a shape. And you see this.
Oh,
For what it's worth, your mentor does not appear phased at all. In fact, he
okay.
looks like quite expectantly at the shadow.
If he does not look phased, she will be putting on her best "I am not phased at all" face as well. But
Do
she's
you
still not leaving her
wanna
body parts in any puddles that may
actually
have appeared from the ceiling.
roll me intelligence canine roll?
Okay.
Difficulty. This is going to be difficulty 7, just because this is pretty obscure in a sense.
Okay.
This is not necessarily common knowledge.
Nope.
You
Not a
fail.
botch. But just
Okay, this means you have not seen this before. In which case, I want you to roll courage.
okay.
Difficulty 7. You have initiate to the road, which means you're at a +1 difficulty. So it's difficulty 8 for you. You may spend willpower on this roll.
I will spend a willpower on this roll. Oops, that's not what I do. If I do that, I'll forget how much willpower I have and always be sad forever. You said +1 diff, so it's diff 8?
It's difficulty 8 because of your floor. Okay, you passed this pretty hard, actually. You got a complete success with 3 successes. So suddenly, for some reason, you don't understand why, but there's something unnatural. This is obviously not normal darkness. This is not natural, and something in it stirs the fear in your beast, in your chest, and it almost rips out. But despite being an initiate of your road, you are able to show your conviction, as it were, and stamp it back down before you find yourself, well, for literally jumping out of a window. You kind of protrude your fangs back into your mouth, and your eyes dampen a little bit. You sit back down, you lurch forward a bit. Your mentor looks at this and just nods, and just kind of looks at the shadow and just says, "So aren't you going to introduce yourself, or are we just going to sit here while my poor friend here loses herself to fear?" And he just looks kind of irritated. And the shadow just kind of nods and actually speaks to you. "My apologies. You weren't expected. We were only informed of your arrival a few minutes ago." And it begins to this humanoid shape begins to become more and more solid and more cohesive, until you see this rather handsome-looking gentleman in what is a combination of golden breastplate and chainmail. Considering you've traveled through this area, you travel through the area for considering your age and where you come from and where you've traveled. This is Byzantine in origin.
Okay.
This is literally Holy Roman Empire-ish sort of thing. His weapon is sheathed. Don't worry. He looks at you. And then he looks at your shadow, and you see him reach out to it, close his hand, and the shadow that was kind of just wailing around in a mocking fashion, antagonistic. It's been causing hassle for the servants. You've had to make up excuses. Your mentors kind of had to drag them away. The shadow literally freezes in place. And he literally, it's literally as if it's being crushed, and returns to what is effectively a regular shadow, and just says, "That was bothering me. I'd like to know how you managed to get yourself cursed with that nonsense."
I do apologize for the inconvenience. I'm fortunate you are so magnanimous.
And the other members of my clan may not be. I apologize. I apologize for the intrusive manner of which I've entered. If you have not heard of me already, I'm Baron Ulrich of Edessa, and one of the recently appointed hounds to the sheriff of this city.
If she's sitting, she can't curtsy, but she will basically drop as close as she can to a sitting curtsy.
He'll just kind of bow to you. He'll nod to your mentor.
Because he is her mentor, she's going to glance at him to see if he's going to introduce himself first or whether he's known. Like she's
Um,
not
no,
stepping on his toes.
the good father would introduce himself. I am Father Jose Perez of Clan Cappadocius.
I'm Frera Iohanna de Guimarães of Clan Toreador.
There is a curious smile on his face. An interesting pairing. I wouldn't have expected that. You wouldn't happen to mind explaining what brings you to our domain?
Religious satisfaction? We're on the way to Jerusalem. In no particular hurry. Unless, of course, we prove an inconvenience, but we've striven not to do so. And she kind of gestures to her caravan with one hand. We wouldn't like to be a burden.
Pilgrimage. Yes, I'm sure you'll enjoy the fountain. There is a glimmer of sarcasm to that, almost as if he knows something you don't.
The fountain, Baron?
You proclaim to be on a pilgrimage, but don't know of Abraham's fountain. I'm disappointed.
It sounds like a worthy tale.
One moment, because I actually need to make sure I actually get this factually correct.
Sure.
While I know the basics of the tale, I don't actually want to give you incorrect information. It's the pool of sacred fish where Abraham was thrown into the fire by Nimrod.
Oh,
Get lucky and see one of the fish there, and you might even get the keys to heaven.
that would be nice.
I'm sure it would be. I can escort you there if you want. Of course, I'm sure you'll want to drop off your servants first and find proper lodgings. He seems to regard the word servant with some degree of suspicion, as if they're not that, as if like that's too good for what they're being used for. Like, it's this degree of like cynicism and kind of like, yeah, that's right. I know you're a pretty terrible person. That's sort of.
Which is rich coming from someone who dripped from the ceiling, but she doesn't say so.
Yep. He literally invaded your carriage and invaded your privacy. Still better than taking a bunch of people here and using them as literal vessels to satiate your thirst.
To
As pawns, dragging them away from their homes and families. Yep.
Oh, he'll find that these people are as excited to pilgrimage as she is,
Oh, I'm sure they
one way
are.
or another.
Oh,
She's
I
very
don't doubt
persuasive.
that for a second. Ulrich is not surprised by this at all. That's not the point of contention he seems to have. He doesn't say anything.
We have been traveling for some time. I'm sure they could use the rest.
There are plenty of inns around. Please be notified most of this city has been claimed as domain by numerous clans.
Of course.
I can take you through my clans. It won't be a problem. We will stick to the outskirts of the Christian quarter. The clan that has claimed domain there forbids any intrusion into the innermost parts of the district.
I see. Even among the faithful?
The Tremere are notoriously secretive.
I see.
It is their way. I cannot blame them.
Check side chat.
You may absolutely do that, or I could have informed you.
Okay, it's just a question of if she can enter it normally, then you will hear a knock on the side of the door.
How do you get in? Oh no, wait, no, we exit here. I'm assuming yes. You can just walk up to them, and yeah, you can do that.
That's the reason I asked. But yeah,
Some servants kind of look at him as in like, who the fuck is this? As in like, they actually look kind of insulted, like, who's this random person knocking to like our leader's door? Our senior, effectively. They don't talk to you, but they kind of give you that stinky side eye.
and she will just smile and just welcome, please.
That only angers them more.
Make yourself comfortable. I just need a moment to talk with you.
That will be my partner for this evening.
Lovely. This is such a gracious welcome. And she will move to open the door.
And outside, you will see this person. Very beautiful woman wearing fairly common clothes, like a merchant woman, perhaps fairly dark, and she smiles to you. You'll notice that she just has like 2 or 3 seconds where she just stops, completely ramrock stiff, and looks at you, and then she smiles, and then forms a fairly beautiful smile. She's just, good evening.
Iohanna, roll for entrancement. She's appearance 5. This is an incredibly beautiful person that you've never seen the likes of before.
What do I roll for that?
Self-control, difficulty 5. You have initiative of your road, so it's difficulty 6.
Okay. I'm excited.
I might need to look up the specific. Okay, no, you do pass. You pass with flying colors. You're fine. There was a moment where your eyes kind of just dilate, where you're just kind of like, wow.
So the two of us just kind of stare at each other and
extraordinarily
the birds
beautiful.
sing for a minute.
Yeah.
She will get in. She will just look to the two of you and just, I do apologize. Ulrich insisted on have a bit of a dramatic entrance. Well, I suppose he has earned the right by now. I am very pleased to meet you, the both of you. My name is Sister Madeleine. And you are?
She again glances at her mentor to give him the chance to make first acquaintance. But she's watching Madeline very intently. Sorry, Ulrich, this lady's app 5.
To be fair, Ulrich's at 4, but
oh my goodness, this is a carriage full of happiness.
Yep. Oh yeah, you're absolutely happy to be around these people because they're parents, because Toreador. He will just rise and just say, I am Father Jose Perez of Clan Cappadocian.
A very good pleasure to meet you. Welcome to our fine city. I hope it finds you well.
I have no doubt it shall.
And Madeline will just look at Iohanna and just say, and you are?
Fra Iohanna de Guimarães of Clan Toreador. And she offers another curtsy.
And it is returned, and Madeline just smiles at her and just says, That is a bit of an odd couple.
Careful, Madeleine. This one has the same issue that Celine does. And then he'll just kind of release his hand, and that shadow goes back to just going raving wild in the caravan.
Oh, come now, Ulrich. We cannot hold that against the poor girl, can we? No.
This is actually unsettling to Lasombra deeply. She's actually a +1
Yeah, but
influence to all social rules.
Madeline says that anyway.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
She just.
I'm just
smiles at
letting you know
Ulrich
what
and
the
just-
flaw actually entails. As
Yeah.
in, the Lasombra actually takes huge issue with this.
And
It's a +2 diff, +2.
It's +2. It's even higher. I did not know that. I thought it was only +1.
Madeline will just. And people in the carriage can probably say that she's somewhat joking, and that does affect her somewhat, but she does say it, and it's probably to be polite, but oh well. But she will sit down next to Ulrich and just smile at him and just look over and just. So you are a cloistered sister?
Sorry, what was the word you said? Cloistered?
Cloistered sister. I mean, are you are a nun actively?
When you say cloistered, she smiles at you and says, "At my convenience, yes."
Yeah. I think that's a willpower for me.
Yeah, no, that's definitely willpower.
Yeah.
Instead of willpower now, because you've verified exactly what they are.
So you
Can
are
I
here
roll
to,
Peony
so
to
you are
us?
here to spread perception, empathy, I think.
It's perception empathy. If you want to look calm, Madeleine, roll manipulation subterfuge. I don't think either of you have any specialties to this.
The thing is, a manipulation empathy, I don't have for this, but does she want to appear calm? That's the question. Or does she want to appear pissed off?
Oh, interesting.
She has 2 successes, but you can see that something is like there's something in her speech as she says. Also, the pause when she says, "So you're here to spread the good word," and that pause and that inclination in her speak, something's bugging her.
Okay. Iohanna kind of tips her head slightly and says, "Of course, as a good Christian, I strive to make all my words good."
Well, how long do you intend to stay in this city? I wonder. She looks to both of them.
Iohanna will glance at her mentor and then answer, "I suppose it depends on how long our welcome lasts and what amenities the city offers."
The city has many amenities. The question is, well, whether you'll be granted access to all of them. Your clan, Iohanna, has claimed domain within the guild halls, which has become a district of its own. You will find the Primogen and the Keeper of Elysia that she is in that direction. However, Abraham's Fountain is to the west side of the city. No clan claims domain there.
Interesting. What is the protocol for approaching the fountain?
Don't.
By all means, you're on a pilgrimage.
Now, already we're supposed to be good hosts. And invite these people.
Touch the fountain at your own peril. Probably won't kill you.
It is quite harrowing just to approach it for most. I cannot recommend staying there for a long time. It has a lasting impression on us.
It's a similar issue that the Hagia Sophia has on our kind. I noted the same sort of strange impressions.
And yet the keys to heaven are quite a prize.
By all means, try to catch the fish.
How interesting. Is that why it is not claimed then?
Iohanna, I must ask you of one thing. Were you born into the cluster? Were you raised in it? Or was this a thing that look over what you are embraced.
Unfortunately, I lost my beloved husband and found it moot to join the sisterhood some time ago.
Oh, oh, I see. You see a subtle change in her? Like she just kind of does a second take of you, just looks at you and just nods and just says, very well, very well.
It's a curious question. Have you some affiliation with the church yourself?
Do you believe I call myself Sister Madeleine without? I did
And
once when I was imprisoned myself, imprisoned by a web of lies that I see you imprisoned in as well.
I
But
see.
but such talk is considered impolite by most, and I do not wish to offend you.
I appreciate it. Both of you have been extremely gracious.
And perhaps a bit forthcoming, depending on your preference, but I do not have a habit of lying too much. I prefer the truth. When the truth has to come out, I tell it. Some people are offended. Please understand that this is also a part of my road. It
I
is
see.
more important for me, and it is not necessarily towards any of you.
And what road do you walk?
A different path than most. She smiles.
She nods.
Interesting. There is another person here who I have associated with in the past. You might know him. He's been in the city for over a century now. You're aware of a man called Hesperos. Do you know where I can locate him?
Oh, Hesperus. Yes, yes, Hesperus of Athens. Yes, he's been here for a lot longer. Yes, he's been here since we got here. She looks at Ulrich.
Perfect.
I believe he's still at the same place, is he not, Ulrich?
The Prophet's Cotavan. Very
I
well.
haven't, I haven't spoken to him since I got back. Then again, he mostly keeps to his own devices, I suppose.
He once traveled to Portugal with me.
Ah, you did not tell me this, Ulrich. And
I wasn't aware he left. I wasn't aware who he left with or to what domain. Sad to see him go. Was a fine gentleman.
Iohanna, can you roll a perception empathy roll once more?
With pleasure.
I feel like we should just max out perception empathy, just because it's the most used stat ever.
Depending on the difficulty, I have 2 successes.
Perception is not a social roll, so it's still 6.
Okay.
You can tell that there's like Madeline and Ulrich. I mean, maybe it's the fact that they were. I mean, well, they've obviously been here for a while, and they seem to be somewhat on a like they. There's a reason that someone sent these two. I mean, you can tell that these two seem to get along fairly well.
They get along, and they're not necessarily. You felt that came out of the role, but I mean, just by judging by what this guy is wearing, like, he's obviously not. He's not a lackey.
Sure.
He is not just a minion. This guy is obviously of some degree of pedigree and power. Just by the way he kind of bears himself, the way he obviously knows the city like the back of his hand. and the way your mentor actually seems to address him with a measure of significant respect.
Mm-hmm.
Madeleine gets a similar treatment for what
Okay.
it's worth. Before you go any further, you should probably be introduced to one of the ruling parties of the city. I'm aware that hospitality has also been delegated towards the Central Iohanna Sheriff, so you will not need to introduce yourself to the Prince, although when Elysium occurs, it would be advised. You will not have to, but I would advise it. Would be rude after all.
She nods and smiles.
I don't think those gloves will save you from the pool.
What did he say?
He looks at your gloves and say, "Don't." And by the way, don't think those gloves will save you from the pool.
The pool, as in like the fountain?
The pool
fountain,
as in a summon, I think.
Oh.
The pool is in, the pool of fish, the pool of fountain, the fountain.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, it's
She smiles. She gives a very thin smile, but there's definite amusement behind it. It's very guarded amusement. Her gloves are extremely thick around the palms because she has quite a bit of cloth wound around them inside the gloves to staunch the bleeding or to soak up the blood so it doesn't get everywhere. And when he says that, she actually just kind of like, her hands are mostly folded in her lap, and she kind of like fidgets so that they're more covered by her skirts, her rather voluminous habit.
Am I to understand that you intend to go to the fountain?
A visit seems moot.
she's more than welcome to. No clan claims it as domain. No one says she can't go there.
I don't know if Ulrich has offered to guide you, but I could show you if you would like to.
Before that, we need to meet the Seneschal and my Primogen. Particularly in regards to your little problem. This appears to be growing rather common and it's frustrating me.
Sorry. That's out of character.
Yeah, as the shadow just kind of like almost hears that and kind of takes a rather humid stance and kind of begins to approach him, you see him just lock it back in place. You see a look of real frustration on the shadow actually as it's locked into place, like it's being bound or imprisoned, and it returns to a normal shadow. And looks away from it as if he's not even concentrating. He just literally waves it away.
She is going to roll to not look violated every time he's like fussing with her shadow.
It's only twice. The shadow, for what it's worth, is thrashing it. It's not controllable. It's deliberately trying to make trouble for you. And when it approaches him in an attempt to violate him, he literally just kind of wills it away, and it is locked in place. That's a bit unsettling because you haven't seen that before either.
No, not at all.
Do you know if Orsini has any take on this, or if it bothers him or pleases him?
Orsini would consume it.
I beg your pardon.
Orsini is an interesting fellow and a very scholarly gentleman. I would not approach him on this issue until you've gotten to grips with the rest of the city.
I see.
He is rather very much respected in my clan, and I would hope that you give him due respect when you meet him.
Of course.
Oh, and one more thing. Just to get it out of the way, the southernmost part, there is a part of the city that you should avoid. just in general.
Please do tell.
It is, I believe the Seneschal will also tell you this, but it is claimed by another party.
Another party.
There's a neighborhood in the Southall slums. If you go there, you will not be given the protection of the traditions. Should you leave that area and reacquaint with us in one piece, you will be blood hunted. There are no appeals.
Then I am extremely grateful for the warning.
I thought that at least everyone should know at first and earliest convenience.
Or it kind of gives you an interested look, as in, almost as in it's like an about time look.
It gives that to Madeline?
Yeah, he gives this look of he just kind of looks fairly blankly at her for a moment. It's a bit strange. Roll me perception, and you can both roll perception empathy.
Okay.
He's not really hiding how he's feeling right now.
One success.
One success. There's a bit more to his. Wow, both of you rolled horribly. Iohanna, you get obviously that there's more to this look, but it's a bit hard to tell. Obviously, he knows a bit more about this issue than he's told you, but you have no idea really where to take your take that idea and curiosity. Especially since, like, he's stated, if you go there, you'll be blood hunted. You're not even sure if you want to know how much do you have to know to be blood hunted. How far up does the food chain does this go? Is kind of what you're thinking. Madeleine, 2 successes. Yeah, it's the about time look, which is strange, like, because that would require him knowing things. Obviously, he does not look kindly upon what is there because he's told you this.
And, well, she assumes that he knows pretty much anything, so
that's the appropriate conclusion.
She's not that surprised because, yeah,
he is kind of it's not a look of about time, so it's a look of slight impatience.
And she will just look at Ulrich, smile, and she will just say, it is a problem that has been there for quite some time, but
we are dealing with it. However, we can discuss further to meet the Seneschal.
Do you know if he has time tonight?
He will.
Good. I suppose we can all go. If you would allow us to accompany you, of course.
Your company would be welcome. And she glances to her mentor. Like, she kind of leaves the sentence hanging so that if he, like, has a frowny face, she can add but to it.
He's just been kind of observing the whole conversation while this is happening and appears rather muted and silent, and his expression fairly focused, not blank. He definitely catches the glance between Madeleine and Ulrich, and that definitely seems to raise an eyebrow for a slight moment before returning to you and giving you a nod of affirmation. We should get going then.
Madeline will get out and she will just stand outside and wait for the others.
Iohanna will slide out the door in her wake And kind of stiffly. She's probably been sitting in there for days. What, nights? Ha, nights.
No, no, yeah, literally nights. You've probably been sleeping in that caravan and had
Yeah.
to seal the windows somehow, probably with specific fabrics that keep as much light out as possible, because even the barest hint of sunlight can do you grave harm.
I will point out that the fabrics in this caravan are extremely rich. I mean, the whole thing is well made and sturdy and generally well made, but the fabrics that they're traveling on are top notch.
Your shadow remains well behaved for the rest of the trip.
Oh, how nice!
Almost as if it's being forcibly controlled. You make it to a building in the Merchants District. As Ulrich said, this is still a somber domain. There's a lot of activity here, a lot of people to feed off of. Most of the buildings are quite well off. It's sort of merchant class to even noble class buildings here. It's not just a domain that is well populated, it is one that has a strong economy, one that is obviously one of the richer districts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all sorts of things on sale as you would expect from merchants district, from common goods to the more exotic, and you can imagine that there's obviously even more going on behind closed doors. But you're taken to one of the more noble looking buildings, more regal, more modern as well. Looks like it's been built only within the past decade or two. And it's a large kind of shop. It's like multi-floored. First floor is obviously the shop, but there's quite a large stairwell leading up to the next floor, in which case you're escorted to an office. What would equate to an office in these times, where all the financial recordings take place, where all the ledgers are kept. And in the office, Ulrich knocks on the door. The knocks are fairly loud and powerful. The door is opened for you. Appears to be some sort of armed servant. And he bows to you and lets you in. And sitting at the desk, there's a few chairs before it for you to sit down on, but there is this man. I'll not make you roll entrancement again.
Oh, I'm excited too, though.
Okay, roll it. This guy's like appearance 5, I think.
Oh, then I'm definitely rolling again. Not only is he beautiful, his clothes are beautiful too.
He's extremely rich. He's wearing the finest in clothing of this era. It's strange actually, because he's obviously wearing white clothing, but he's wearing a red sash, and color's kind of an important deal. And you fail.
I fail. What's that mean? What do I get?
So let me just look this up for you, because it could mean several things. It's a little bit subjective for you.
Wow.
So what happens is struck by beauty. If they encounter beauty, this raw self-control instinct of if they fail, the daydream of their senses continues until the scene concludes or departs. The rush of pleasure they receive from objects of beauty is highly addictive. An undisciplined Toriel can end up reeling from one moment of aesthetic bliss to the next, and his enemies can exploit this. Toriel may interact with their objects of obsession, however, for deeply inhumane Toreador, this can mean terrible things for a living obsession, as the Toreador seeks to take in every aspect of nature's art, understanding on a visceral, fundamental level. You are enraptured completely and fully by the physical and aesthetic beauty of this man. He looks like a living piece of art. From your perspective, the exemplar of The Walking Dead. what your robe hopes to obtain. Quite literally, an immortal statue of perfection that you just want to examine and feel in every aspect, to take in every little detail, and just take it all in and learn from it, and examine it and study it.
She freezes and stares.
Your mentor is obviously aware of this because this happens all the fucking time.
You're right.
Yeah, if anyone wants to roll for it, they can. But your shadow remains well behaved.
That's very convenient.
You don't notice that though anymore. You focus on this man.
Mm-hmm.
Gestures towards a seat. You sit on it. You really want to pull the seat forward. You just want to slowly. You kind of. He gestures towards a seat and you sit on it, but you literally lurch forward to the desk itself, and you're only about 10 inches away from him, and your eyes are just scattered and just taking in his entire form.
Excellent.
He looks down on you, and then looks towards your mentor. It seems to grab his attention a bit more. And that fills you with jealousy. The very fact that he even is paying anyone but you attention is infuriating you.
Oh, good.
And he looks back towards you and says, I claim this, I suppose this is one of the roses. He acts like this has happened before. You don't care.
I don't care. It's his own fault for being beautiful. He said this is the seneschal?
Yes, this is the seneschal. Oh. This is the second in command of this entire city.
Hey, this is a good compliment. I really like the way you look. So much that I can't control myself.
Please excuse my student. She is one of the roles. She is only recently adopted her current role, and as such is not as disciplined as many of her other brethren would be for her age.
Priest Perez, I do apologize if this is so very personal, but I am to assume that you have instructed and led her on this new road.
She kind of waves a hand, not dismissively, because she's acknowledging you with it, but the question is not in any of her daydreams right now.
Nope. You're trying to get his attention. Actually, as you wave, you kind of feel a hand drifting towards him. As the good father says, yes, I am but one that was involved in her new philosophy. It was not one that was taken lightly, of course. Roads are consequential.
Quite so.
Madeleine, you see Iohanna, her hands drifting towards the seneschal. She puts them on his shoulders.
She will probably go. She will just go over and grab her arms and just let them maybe touch her shoulders instead.
She has no interest in touching your shoulders. She wants to touch the Seneschal's shoulders. She pulls away.
She
Furiously.
has a thing about her hands.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think she
you
would
do.
probably sit back to watch intently. Like, I don't think her eyes are going to leave this guy, but I don't think she would try to touch him.
Fair enough. It's kind of like that awkward motion of you briefly touch his shoulders, but you don't get much feeling from it because you're wearing thick gloves, and then you kind of hate these thick gloves.
Oh no.
They're depriving you of your study, of your research, of this moment, of this person.
Okay, she will.
Because you have an issue with your hands, I will allow you to roll self-control, difficulty 6,
Okay.
to not take them off.
Okay. One success.
One success. You can barely find it within yourself, but there's kind of a sense of shame from doing so, as if you're kind of giving into fear, but you can't really overcome it. And you kind of fidget with your hands for a little bit. Seneschal, in the meanwhile, has got his full attention back on you, but is giving you a glare. One of exasperation and almost sort of aloofness. It's like, this is not respectful in any way, but again, you don't care. You're just glad he's looking in your direction.
What and Madeline is a bit distracted by Iohanna, just spacing out or whatever you want to call it. After a little while, she just, what road is it that she is now on, if I may ask?
With all due respect, that is between me and her.
I truly respect that. Please apologize for my straightforwardness.
He just nods silently. So, these two are newcomers. For what purpose do you come here? And he looks at Iohanna, the one person who can't get enough of this guy's face and everything.
Yes, look over here. Ask me the question. Thank you. She doesn't say that, of course. What she says instead is much more ladylike. She gives him a smile that is a little more welcoming than it should be, but is not actively predatory yet.
It looks more obsessed than predatory.
Mm-hmm. We're on pilgrimage to Jerusalem and are learning a great deal about the Holy Land as we travel.
There is much to learn. I would say, in many ways, too much.
To learn and to appreciate.
And more. Tell me, you say you're on a pilgrimage. How long do you intend on staying here? You will give me the full truth and nothing but the truth because you failed your self-control.
Okay, let's see. The full truth and nothing but the truth.
Oh yeah, you spill your guts to him.
With Madeline here. Okay.
Yep.
We have been on the road for some time and we are in no hurry to reach Jerusalem. There are many things to be found here, and as long as we find ways to hold our interest, we will be pleased to stay. I'll point out that she has a fairly wealthy and powerful background, and when she says we will be pleased to stay, her demeanor is gracious, her voice is polite, but it's definitely those are the words of someone who is kind of used to telling people what she's going to do in very polite terms and not necessarily being argued with. So she's not commanding him, but she's not begging either.
And for what? And what would you consider your interests to hold here?
I mean, does she have to say you? Because
You and everything else.
right? What she's going to say instead is, we are a pilgrimage of scholars and artisans, as well as people of God. We are here to appreciate the art in all its forms of the places we come across. Odessa so far seems to offer a great deal.
Implications in that sentence that you deliberately go down.
What did you say? What did you say?
When you say stuff like art and the city has much to offer, you just kind of emphasize that towards him. As if to say, you are my everything. You're aware that your particular line of faith doesn't hold sway in this city anymore, yes? What do you intend to do regarding this?
Of course, we strive not to make a nuisance of ourselves while we're here. It would be extremely impolite to provoke any untoward fuss. As I say, we have no desire to wear out our welcome anytime soon. Hang on. I have to look up a passage that it's really important. I have to mute myself because it's far away. I'll be right back.
What do you think of this one, Madeleine? You know her better than I. He smiles.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
He just asked Madeleine what she thought of Iohanna.
And she has a smile on her face as she looks at this, like, what is it?
Yielding whelp.
Poppy-dog eyes at the Primogen. Well, she seems friendly enough. But I do not see any reason why they could not stay here. As long as, of course, she will pause and just, well, you are with a neutral part, but do remember that the war is quite prohibited to take any actions within the city or around it. But I do not think, given that you are traveling with a neutral part in the war, that you have any part in this.
Yes. I certainly hope you're not here to ignite more troubles. If it is me seeing the gangrel and their Assamite tamers. And you're not here to do that, and you feel bad. Because he's disapproving of you, and you don't want that. You want him to approve of you.
I see.
You want to stay with him.
I can't find the stupid passage I'm looking for.
I believe she can, after some time, get herself out of it, right?
Lasts for a full scene.
Ah, okay. Oh, those are the Dark Ages rules.
And until the scene concludes or the object departs. In this case, the seneschal. But you went AFK to find us something. The seneschal's kind of looking at you dismissively again.
We are not here to ignite any sparks.
I would hope not. Your clan has aligned itself with the Venture and the Tremere. I'm sure you've heard of the War of Omens at this point if you're of any significant age.
Out of character, I'm sure she has.
Out of character, the War of Omens is the war of the Gangrel, the Tmisi, and the Nosferatu, and the Assamite. Well, not the Assamites upon the Tremere, but it appears the Assamites have replaced the Nosferatu in the city. So basically, these three clans are trying to genocide the Tremere. It appears that is not happening here because the Seneschal has implied it is not, but he is worried that your clan might try and start more because they're helping the Tremere.
Interesting.
He continues to look at you to continue the statement.
I'm quite certain that we would not be so rude. Not with you watching, anyway. She doesn't say it. She just thinks it.
Given that she is in such good spirits, I suppose that would be a good sign. No?
I can only hope she's serving no one else's interests but her own.
I have quite enough interests to serve.
No doubt. You seem to be a most disciplined sort, far too disciplined to indulge in such things. He says this as you're kind of clamoring over him. Your mentor actually rolls his eyes at that statement, kind of annoyed, but doesn't look anything more than annoyed. You are completely ambivalent to the fact that Essential's clearly indulging your weakness and squeezing you for information.
Doesn't bother me. Squeeze away.
Let's
have some squeezing.
He pats you on the head affectionately, immediately rolls self-control to not touch him. Difficulty 7, please.
Oh my goodness. I don't know about affectionate pattings on the head.
It is condescending as it sounds. You do not touch him. But you kind of rest in his hand for a little bit. And then his hand goes back to the desk. Tell me what, if I may so ask, I'm aware your mentor wishes to keep your philosophies between himself, but if you would be so charitable, I would be honored.
Is my mentor still in the room?
Yep. He is not into Jack. This is a seneschal. He can't say no to this guy. He'll be killed.
Okay. Is there something I can roll to avoid the urge to tell him everything, or should I just spill it?
Absolutely not. You absolutely spill it.
Okay.
This is the nature of the Torador weakness. It sucks.
I walk the road of bones.
Fascinating.
Madeline looks, well, a mixture of surprise and actually happiness as she just looks at.
Of course she would be.
She just looks and just goes, "Excuse me?" That is a surprise.
Uncommon, but valid and legitimate nonetheless. I am just happy we don't have another sinner.
Oh, does he say that?
Yes, you feel so vindicated and in love right now.
She does. She's now officially deeply in love with the seneschal.
He's now Seneschal Bay. That's what he is. Competing with someone for this asshole. Why? Well then.
There's nothing at the end of that road but flames. And I would not walk it again if the alternative were indeed flames before me.
That is reassuring. Do you have lodgings?
I believe my retainers are seeking lodgings at the moment. I'm told that there are inns aplenty.
I'm sure you would love to set up within a place such as the Christian Quarter or even Abraham's Fountain, but I would not recommend. Abraham's Fountain is largely devoid of lodgings. They keep the site fairly pure. In the Christian Quarter, if you're not already aware, the Tremere claimed domain to and forbid all those from entering apart from the most empty of neighborhoods on the edges of its boundaries. The Torador domain, however, I believe would be more than happy to hold you for the moment.
Excellent.
Although I'm not sure how well Lady Beatrice would take to someone on your particular philosophy.
Oh.
Ulrich pipes up a little bit. She's a mentor of humanitas. Obviously, that doesn't. Your road will not appeal to her in many ways, but I'm sure she's a most tolerant woman.
I see.
You'll have to worry more about Gwyn.
And who is Gwen? She actually doesn't care. She's asking to be polite. She cares about one person.
You ask to be polite, but your voice is directed towards the seneschal. You actually don't really hear him. You just kind of hear noise and assume it's what the seneschal wants you to hear, so you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Because seneschal seems to like this guy, but, well, seems to respect him. Not necessarily like, but there's obviously a healthy respect.
Okay.
Gwyn is an ancestor of your clan. You will come to know him well in time, no doubt. But knowing that your interests do not intercede with the cities, I see no reason for you being barred from it. You feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I've asked your comrade this, but you would not happen to be able to point me in the direction of Hesperos, would you? And Seneschal looks towards your mentor, and again, you're just filled with hatred. Hesperos, yes, you can find him where you found him so many decades ago. That is good. I'll request to stay with my student for the moment. Seneschal doesn't nod to him. If that is all, or is there anything you wish to add? And he looks very specifically at Iohanna. Is there any information at all that she would spill to him? Any specific little secret Maybe you tell him that you have maybe actually. Yes, no, Auric said his clan would take issue with this. You should probably tell him about your shadow.
Okay.
That's just mean, Chris.
It
That's
is. It really is.
Well, I mean, Madeline or Ulrich would say it at this point, I think, but it's just me.
You haven't said it yet. She's being asked.
She will say, I bring a few small difficulties with me. I'm certain there are none that can't be overcome with gracious treatment of the locals. But I understand that I shall be a small annoyance to Little Sombra.
He furrows his brow and just says, elaborate.
I bring a rather more lively darkness with me than usual. I understand.
How severe?
She eyes him and decides in that moment that she should probably do something about it if he is bothered. Not that she has any idea what to do about it, but
Yeah, he's suddenly become all business with you.
is how well is the room lit?
Fairly well lit. There are torches up. You don't have to recover these torches. They're mildly unsettling for you to look at, but you're easily able to face them out. You don't really feel uncomfortable.
I'm not looking at shit right now. I have one thing.
You have one guy to look at, one beautiful hunk of Moorish man.
My shadow does as it pleases, and not as I please.
You'll get along well with Celine then. He kind of looks dismissively, but doesn't seem as phased as before. That is easily controllable to those with our specific set of talents. I'd have been more worried if you were putting out the torches in this room.
No.
Very well.
There are great benefits to good lighting.
Some in my clan would disagree.
I'm grateful that they aren't here to inconvenience me.
That is fortunate. He says this as if he's like, yeah. Almost like this is a can of worms he doesn't want any part of.
Nor should he. Nor should he.
You may take your leave now. You don't want to leave.
No, she doesn't. She sits, rather like she didn't quite hear. Do I have to roll something to take my leave, or should I just sit here? 'Cause she will just sit
No,
here.
I know what he's going to do now. You see him stare deeply into your eyes, which only makes you feel even more in love with this gentleman. As he just says, leave. Willpower.
Say that again?
What's your temporary willpower? Because you spent one this scene.
Correct. My temporary willpower is 5.
You get the fuck out of there.
Okay.
That is 6 successes on that roll.
Oh. Here I go then.
Your body betrays your emotions in its entirety. Almost in horrible swift efficiency, you leave.
Okay.
You turn away from him. You kind of almost feel like the need to claw out your eyes, to almost like to tear your face back towards him, but you can't. You're not. It's almost as if control of your body has just been directly robbed from you. And you leave the room, and the door is swiftly shut, and your entrancement over him breaks. You still feel the echoes of that emotion, though. You still believe yourself to be. You recognize your state for what it was, but at the same time, it's a case of you want to believe it. Like, it's a case of you got good impressions from him. It's an addicting sensation.
Absolutely. Did my mentor exit as well?
Oh,
Who
yeah.
came with me?
Ulrich and Madeline.
Okay.
That could have gone worse.
Oh, I imagine it could have been much worse. What a delightful man.
Iohanna, you
Indeed. If a little invasive.
Did you think so?
well, a seneschal has many responsibilities. Yes, most definitely involved in the safety of everyone in the city. Courteousness must give way to some inquisitiveness. I can, well, from personal experience, I can say that that is very much the case.
I thank all three of you for your hospitality. But I should perhaps be on my way. Sister, would you like to visit the fountain before acquiring lodgings for the evening?
I think perhaps it would be a better idea to get settled a little. If it can be an unsettling experience, I would prefer to take my time. Also, I have poetry to write at home. She doesn't say that, but she does.
A wise conclusion. Then I shall depart for safe haven this evening. Thank you again.
Does her mentor say that, or is that Ulrich talking?
That's your mentor. Ulrich is just talks more like me. The father's more like this.
Okay.
He's a little bit slow. But he's just going at his own pace, so it's fine.
Of course. If there's any way I can be useful, I hope you'll send word. Enjoy your studies.
There is a nod, and he will take his leave in silence. Take the alleys. If someone sees a shadow acting out like that and they decide to investigate, I will treat that as a breach of the silence.
I understand.
Or I can escort you back. I can keep that thing in check until I leave.
Again, that would be extremely gracious of you.
Ulrich,
Then
you seem so very tense. Should we perhaps discuss if there is anything you need to speak of? To help you relax a bit?
Shadows moving not of their own accord are rarely cause for relaxation, especially one not of our clan. To us, it can happen. We have powers over the darkness. You, either someone has committed some sort of curse upon you, or you have managed to curse yourself. I hesitate to speak of which one is worse. I hope it can be resolved in time. We do have many masters of darkness in this city. I'm sure someone with the appropriate payment will be able to discover a solution on your behalf.
Truly, that would be extremely pleasing to me. It has been an inconvenience, to say the least. But I do regret that it has also inconvenienced you.
I will say that I'm impressed you've managed to keep it in check for this amount of time.
I am known to prefer the darkness. For that reason. Among my people.
Tell me if this is ever so rude of me to ask a lady her age.
Oh shoot, I have to do math, hang on. Is it, with my dots and etiquette, how rude is it for him to ask that of a vampire?
It's kind of an in-joke. In fact, to you kind of only, you remember the joke, but it's not a case of you finding it funny because it's a human thing. That is a human joke relevant to human behavioral paradigms and social sensibilities. For a vampire to be asked their age is pretty standard. Unless they're very old and are expected to be known as old, then they would be insulted. But to ask a random, like kind of a stranger their age isn't technically unusual because it's a case of, are they a neonate or are they an elder? In which case I need to show respect to them.
Got it. And would I give an age since my birth or the age since my death?
Age since your death. You may include since your birth, but you would note that. Like, this is how many years I've been alive plus my actual age since death. But most Canaanites in this setting, it's called Canaanites, give their age, give how many years they've been a vampire. So basically how many years since they've been embraced, how many years since they've died.
Okay. I was embraced 57 years ago.
Interesting. Young for someone to be treated with so much respect. I am approaching 150 years.
I'm a very busy woman.
Well, you've lived past one generation of multiple six at least. I'm sure we'll live through many more. There's a hint of kind of sadness to that. You don't care. You're like, yeah, well, it'll be an interesting learning experience is what you're thinking. Anyway, I apologize for sidetracking us.
Can I actually perception empathy to catch that that little moment there where he was sad about it?
Yeah.
And anything else that is lurking in that sadness?
You get 2 successes because the ones hate you. Yeah, there is a sort of, people died. That actually happens to me. I just kind of watch while everyone dies sort of thing. It's kind of a standard thing, usually for younger Canaanites, not one this old. It's a very humane response.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Anyway, he will open his arm for you, my lady. If I may have the honor.
Is he, sorry, he's offering his arm or he's gesturing her ahead of him?
He's offering his arm.
Okay. She takes a moment to kind of squeeze her glove and make sure that there's not going to be any dripping. and then she takes it gently. Her hand rests extremely lightly on his arm.
Because you've healed your permanent wound up to full, it's not actually bleeding anymore.
Excellent. Perfect.
It will just start bleeding again the next night.
Okay. It's still a habit.
Yeah, for some reason it won't close. You know that's not normal for canines.
Sure.
You know that wound should absolutely close upon being healed, but yours keeps opening, and it's a rare condition. But that's neither here nor there. You take his arm and he'll begin escorting you out of the building. Your shadow behaves the entire trip. Madeline, what do you do? Do you follow them, or do you take a departure here?
She will. Madeline will just. She'll actually follow them. She'll walk. She'll walk with them. Maybe she wants to discuss something with Ulrich afterwards. Who knows?
You're escorted to basically the domain of Toreador. It's a guild hall. There's plenty of places to sleep here in Find Haven, either through illegal or legal action. Well, actually, that's not true at all. It's almost entirely legal action. If you were trying to find a place to crash as a gangrel or something with no money, you'd be screwed.
Sure.
Because it's a very well maintained area. There's a significant presence of the city guard here. There's a lot. In fact, the entire Merchants District, the Merchants District is almost covered in city guard. This area not quite as much, but it's still a well-off area and it's still well maintained. It's quite close to the Merchants District as well, which means there's a lot of people, a lot of the guard that seem to inhabit the Merchants District seem to kind of overlap the Guildhall District a little bit. So it's quite secure from a mortal standpoint. Does actually give you a sense of ease. You're unlikely to run into any malcontents looking to rob a poor sister like yourself. But you are taken to an appropriate place of something that can definitely serve as it's kind of a fairly nice looking inn. Definitely one of the upper tier ones in town. Is closer to basically a medieval hotel than an inn. Looks like some people have set up shop here permanently, and you'll be literally you'll pick a room. You'll be escorted all the way up to the door, and then Ulrich will basically unhook you, and we'll say, again, my apologies for the intrusiveness earlier on tonight.
She gives him a smile and says, "It was very interesting. It has been a pleasure to make your acquaintance and yours, Sister Madeline."
Likewise. Please have a good evening, and I am sure that the two of us will speak again
I hope so.
soon. She smiles.
Would it be inappropriate to ask them if there was a way to reach them in the city? Like, do they have...
Yeah, that's fine. That's not rude at all.
Unless you change your mind about accompanying me to the fountain, I would send someone to ask your convenience.
Please do. I can be met at this location, and she'll give you instructions to where you can send a note that she will find.
Okay.
I do have places I frequent, but it is more likely that I will end up finding you on the appointed time.
She nods.
That is no insult. My apologies. I know that may have came across as abrasive, but I have extensive connections throughout the city.
I see.
Simply give her time, and I will be able to locate you without too much issue.
Lovely. Thank you
That
again.
sounds almost concerned.
He can take it however he likes. She's smiling when she says it.
He will smile back to her and will open the door for you.
And she...
Your lovely little room.
drops a curtsy to you both and disappears inside.
The door will close, and as soon as they leave your presence, your shadow begins running riot again.
She swears at it very quietly in Latin.
It laughs at you. Auric turns towards Madeleine as they begin heading back down the stairs. She's nice. For someone on her road, they're usually much...
Maybe she is about as much a closeted sister as I am, anyway. It's not... I misjudged her. I believed her to be a lot more naive. It should be interesting.
Her shadow on that road, I'm worried. She could be a target.
Of course, we all can.
She came here on pilgrimage. So, she's not here under necessarily false pretenses.
No. Do you intend to keep an eye on her?
For the moment. It's not like she'll see me.
Is there anything else you would like to speak of? She looks at him fairly intently.
What do you mean?
Well, our dearest seneschal knew quite intently of my dealings and my meeting with our friends. And you seem to know before the fact as well. So, I assume that you would know that I have visited them once more.
And then you disappeared from reality for about a full hour before coming back.
Yes, and you do not want to talk about it? I assume that you want to talk about it. And frankly, I need to speak with someone about it.
What happened when you disappeared?
Perhaps we should speak at my place.
That would be better, I think.
Quite so. She smiles, takes his arm, and just wiggles around her arm around his, and they walk to another place in the city. And with that, I believe that this scene will come to a close.
As one real nun, one not real nun, and a literal knight in shining armor all coalesce and roleplay King Arthur, I guess. Thank you, players for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. And this has been an introduction scene to the lovely Iohanna. Not at all on a cold road, and is the warmest Torador you'll ever meet. She is lovely. Hearts everywhere. We'll see you next time.